It's right above water, right? A little chlorine. Yeah.
Little of both.
Yeah.
About 50-50.
Right. You see, I moved to Grafton, Vermont in 1958. We left Grafton because I got a very good job up Lyndonville, Vermont. But we never left Vermont. So we always had that drilled water.
All right. Thank you for doing this.
Well, quite welcome. Yeah.
All right. Would you state your name and your rank in the military, what branch, etc., just for the record before we start? Yeah.
My name is Jay Karpin. My rank when I retired from the I never, by the way, I want to tell you this, I never received a discharge. All I ever got, both from the Army and the Air Force, was a separation from service. They called me back for Korea. They called me back for Vietnam because I was an expert on F-105 Republic Aviation aircraft, and we were having real trouble with bomb bay doors. It was a single-seat fighter that carried a nuclear weapon. I wound up first lieutenant. Captaincy was following me right along. If I'd stayed in, and I didn't because of a beautiful girl who said, I won't marry you if you're flying the P-80 jets, because some good guys were getting killed. I was a bombardier navigator through training at Childress, Texas. And for the most part, I was bombardier in the 8th Air Force. You want me to start just from the beginning and go through what happened?
No, I'd rather ask you questions.
Okay.
And if you say, hey, wait a minute, you should know this,
Okay.
you go ahead. It's better if it isn't a monologue, I think, right, G? Yeah.
Okay.
You remember Pearl Harbor?
Well, of course, yeah.
How old, where were you?
17. I was babysitting for my sister and my brother. My parents were at a wedding, and I was sitting there doing my homework. And I kept hearing these calls on the radio about the bombing in Hawaii, and we thought that was like a story they were telling, And then finally I realized, I said, wait a minute, this has been going on and on and on. Something else, something different. And
By a story, do you mean like maybe the War of the Worlds from a
Yeah.
You thought it was something like that,
Yeah.
Orson Welles?
Orson Welles program, right?
Okay.
And we'd heard that, So
You heard Orson Welles, it was 1938.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, oh yeah.
So you'd been 14 years old.
Right. Well, anyway, a friend came in. We were supposed to just do homework together, and he said, "Did you hear Pearl Harbor's been bombed?" I said, "I guess I heard on the radio, but I'm so surprised that's actually happened."
Did you run right down to the recruitment center and sign up, or were you drafted? How'd that work?
No, I didn't want to be drafted. I hated mud, and I wasn't a great swimmer, so I didn't want to be in the Marines or the Navy. So I went down to, I don't remember the number, but it was on Whitehall Street in New York City. That was where they were doing all the recruiting for the Army Air Corps. So I walk in there, and the sergeant looks at me and he said, "What do you want?" And I said, "I want to volunteer for duty with the, I want to fly." And he kind of snickered. He said, "How old are you?" And I said, 17. And he said, "Do you have 2 years of college?" I said, "No." And he said, "That's a requirement." I said, "Oh, gee whiz, I don't know. There's no other way I can get in?" He said, "Sure, we can give you a test. You want to have the test?" I said, "Yes, I do." He said, "Okay," and he gave me a date to come back. And he said, "By the way, we'll weigh you then and do your physical if you pass the written exam." I came back, I don't know how it was. I knew I was underweight. There was no two ways. They had a 150-pound limit, the low range, and I was only about 148. And I know stripped I was 148. So one of my friends, that's the same guy that we talked about on Pearl Harbor Day, he said, go eat a bunch of bananas before you go there. And that'll give you a couple of pounds. Believe it, eat 2 pounds of bananas. Well, I did. And I just barely, my scale was going like that, 150 pounds. And so they said, okay, now go out, have some lunch, and come back, and then we'll have you do the written test. I did the written test, and then the sergeant kept walking by, and he would snicker, you know. And so they grade you right away. They have a mask that they put over to see what you circled, you know, and right up. And he looked at it twice. I got an 89. And a lot of it was college math. And to be totally honest with you, I guessed at half of it. You know, I have to admit it. And so I passed. And they couldn't believe it. He said, we can't take you yet, you're 17. When you're 18, let us know. I said, June 23rd, I'll be 18. And he said, okay, we would be out of school. I said, yeah, that's the day I graduate high school. And he said, okay. He said, if you come back the next day afterwards, okay. Then they called me up and they said, you're in the Army Air Corps, but we can't handle you for a couple of days, so stay home. And they didn't call me back to about sometime in September when I actually went in. We all went into a bunch of guys I knew actually from town, and older guys from college, and they sent us from there to that island out in the Army had a base there. And then they took us to...
Is it Guam?
Huh?
Guam?
No, the island in the New York Harbor there.
Oh.
Governor's Island.
Governor's Island,
Yeah.
yeah.
They put a whole
I
bunch
thought you
of us-
meant, yeah.
Yeah. And then they shipped us down to Nashville, Tennessee. By a whole bunch of us in terrible conditions. The barracks that I was in, we all got measles. A month later, we all got spinal meningitis. There were 32 people in that barracks, 30 died. I survived, and one other guy in the bunk next to me, and we don't know why we too survived, but we did. I had spinal meningitis, okay. The flight surgeon called the two of us in, and he said, we are going to discharge you guys, you can't fly. And I said, I'm not going home. I said, I got to find something else to do then. They're going to take me in the regular Army. He said, I can't do that. He said, well, we're going to send you home, then re-enlist. I was infuriated. And I was just wild enough and crazy enough that I didn't give a damn. I turned around and I looked, I found a scalpel, and I said, you're dead. And he looked at me and said, you'll kill me, won't you? And I said, he called me all kinds of names. I can't repeat for this. He said, all right, put the knife down. I'm going to give you 90 days. I'm going to assign you to garbage detail. I'm going to assign you to guard duty. I'm going to assign you to latrine duty. And you're going to be damn sorry you said you wanted to stay in this Air Corps. And calisthenics twice a day. I did it. I came back and he called me 90 days on the other guy failed. He was ahead of me. I go, oh, Jesus. And so he called me in and he said, okay, here, we're going to go through everything. And he did all the vitals and everything. And then he said, the last thing, bend down and touch your toes. I said, I can't. And he said, bend down and touch your toes. So I bent down as far as I could, and he said, you failed. I grabbed the same scalpel, and it's, you're dead.
You're a hard man.
Yeah. And so he said, all right. He said, but one thing, I'm going to make sure on your paperwork, you're disqualified as a pilot. He said, because pilots have to do that kind of exercises, and you can't. He said, you can take the test as a bombardier and a navigator. And they had these formal tests that you had to take. I mean, so they shipped me to San Antonio. And that's where the big classrooms were at that time. And so I went through And the big thing is, I amazed them on two things. Was what do they call it when you can line something up real good, and they give you the same test for your eyes and the motor being right. You know, being able to align. I mean, they had these two things on strings, and they want you to line them up dead nuts. You know, and most guys would have them like 3 or 4 inches apart, and mine was right dead. He said, "You're a bombardier." And then the navigation. Actually, I'll tell you the honest truth. I failed the math after passing Whitehall Street. I failed the math for navigator, and doesn't matter. Go ahead, keep going. So I did. They shipped me and a bunch of us to a brand new school in Childress, Texas. Now we were aviation cadets. Okay, we were lower than a private. You have no rights whatsoever. All right, and we got paid $7 a month or something like that, but we didn't have any rank whatsoever. We were aviation cadets, and this was up at Childress, Texas, way up in the Panhandle. The famous thing about Childress is they have more dust storms than any other place in the whole world. So anyway, I trained as a bombardier navigator. Passed everything. In fact, I did very well. Most of the guys that came out of that school were warrant officers, which is 1 grade above a sergeant. You're not a commissioned officer, but about 10 of us got commissions, and there it is.
Oh goodness! Yeah.
United
Get
States.
a picture of that.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
Well done.
So anyway. Then we were sent home for a couple, 3 days, and we went back, and they sent me to Salt Lake City. That was a distribution center for pilots, and well, co-pilots, of course, and bombardiers and navigators, and we would join up then with our gunners and our radio man and our crew chief, all right? And so I got sent to Biggs Field, El Paso, Texas. I got there, I got out of the train, I said, uh-oh, this is a mistake. I had been promised, and see, the reason we were bombardier navigators was because in the twin-engine planes, the B-25, B-26s, A-20s, there was no room for a bombardier and a navigator in the nose. Okay, so they wanted guys that were trained that could do both. I could do the navigation, get to the target, bomb it, and get you back home again. All right, they were losing more planes because they couldn't find their way home. You know, so but I get to this field. And it's B-24, 4-engine group. And I said, oh boy, big mistake. I don't want to go on those damn things now. The name of the group was the 493rd. It was 493rd Bomb Group. And so I immediately go to headquarters, and I want to see the colonel here. And who the hell are you, you know? I said, I'm in the wrong place. I'm a bombardier. I'm a bombardier navigator, and I'm not supposed to fly in these planes because there's room for a bombardier and a navigator, and it's a big mistake. Oh, you'd like to see the colonel? Just a minute. So anyway, they showed me into his office. They said, what's your problem, Lieutenant? I'm misassigned, sir. I'm supposed to be in a twin-engine group, and these are all 4-engine B-24s. Oh, okay. He said, you can call me Butch Hellcat. It was Hellgren or something like that. It'll come to me in a minute. He said, I really feel sorry for you, Lieutenant. Now get your skinny ass out of here and go find your barracks. You're assigned to crew number so-and-so.
Wow.
And he meant it, boy. And he was our group commander. I didn't get out of that group, of course. And another one of my lucky, I survived spinal meningitis. Here's another one for you. My pilot, co-pilot, navigator, myself, we were all in one room in a barracks. The navigator, Tommy Walker, was from El Paso, and he was engaged, and he wanted to throw a party for all the crews in our squadron. There were 12 planes in the squadron, and so A few really great, nice parties downtown in El Paso. I don't know what happened and why, but the co-pilot, Art Carney, and I, Jay Karpin, both got sick as anything, whether it was a virus or food or whatever. So we couldn't go with Walker, and I don't remember his name now, first name. It was Tommy Walker. The other one, the pilot, I don't remember his name. They left in the pilot's car, and they ran right in front of a train. And Tommy Walker got killed right there. Now, if we had been in that car, would we have gotten killed? Who knows, right? The pilot, a guy named Jim Barton, I don't remember now, was crippled for life, and he was out. I bumped into him once in New York City, and he was saying, "You guys were lucky." He said, "I was a lousy pilot." Anyways, if I lean forward, does that take you out of focus? Back up to Salt Lake City to get reassigned because the crew's gone. All right. And then, if they sent me back right to the 493rd Bomb Group, to a pilot named Don Hogan. And the navigator was, oh Jesus, I can't remember his name right off, but he was, Don was a mortuary guy. The co-pilot, Art Carney, had been a Connecticut state trooper. The navigator had been a New York City cop, and I was a student. I didn't have a job, never had a job. All right. So anyway, Don was a fantastic pilot, but he said, "You know, I never flew one of these things." I said, "What?" He said, "I never flew a B-24. I only flew B-17s." And he said, "I've trained on a B-17s. Here we are, guys." You know, so 24 was easier to take off and land because it had the tricycle gear, whereas the 17 had the tail dragger. And you had to be really good and get that thing up there and not let it waver around to take off. And coming down landing, you had to stall that airplane. It had to be dead nuts when it hit the ground. Completely stalled, or you flew right into the ground. A lot of guys got killed that way. They weren't stalled any. They hit that hard and the landing gear collapsed.
It's incredible.
Yeah, we lost. You know, there's a lot of things people don't know about what happened in training. You know, we lost guys in head-on collisions in training. We lost guys whose engines that failed on takeoff. You know, training was really, really rough, and we had the worst airplanes. Just the junk that was left. The good stuff was going overseas. We had inexperienced pilots, really. We had some real old twin-engine bombers that were using for training airplanes. We never dropped anything larger than a 100-pound bomb. I mean, it was just, to me, it was really cruel the way they did. I mean, we were using equipment that was so bad.
And you were the guy who was eyeing the targets and calling when the bomb would drop, etc. Were you good at it?
We had 3 bomb sites that we trained on. Mm-hmm. Of course, the best was the Norden, and I'll explain how that worked. Then there was a Sperry, which the Norden went into all the B-17s. The Sperry went into B-24s. And then they had a visual sight, what they called it. It was something they borrowed from the British. And where it was an angle thing that you'd set up, and it was just, and then you try to toggle the bombs out, and you'd miss the target by half a mile, you know, one of those things, right? The Norden was very accurate if you used it right. And there was one big advantage of the Norden. And I'll explain that right off, and then I'll get into it and explain. With the Norden bomb sight, you locked the bomb sight to the automatic pilot. The bombardier flew the airplane during the whole bombing run. The pilot was hands off, he couldn't touch anything. He couldn't anyway, he was locked out. They wanted to make sure they didn't get, because sometimes we would make a violent move, or oh look, this crosshair's going this way, can we get it back? And you know, so we'd crank it into the head, bring that crosshairs back, and the pilot would get scared. Something happened to my airplane, you know. But we flew the plane during the whole bomb run. Once the navigator said IP, initial point, bang, we locked it on. And that was the end of the pilot's job until I said, bombs away. Then I had to unlock it real quick. And there were some problems with that because sometimes the bombardier got killed, and now has nobody there, and they can't get him off. You get to the lever to unlock.
Can you give me a circumstance where a bombardier would get killed or did get killed?
Well, fighters come in and then they kill you right there. You know, you hit the B-24, the new one. You were safer, but they only had the Sperry, and the Sperry didn't lock you in. You know, it was a different setup.
So what protected you when you were up there? You've got combat aircraft around you, right?
All you've got in front of you is plexiglass.
That's it?
Yeah, whole nose of a B-17 was plexiglass. Nothing else.
But weren't there combat aircraft up there in case you were confronted by combat aircraft?
You actually had to be a gunner too. I had two 50 caliber Brownings under my seat that I had to fire when fighters came straight in.
So if a Messerschmitt or a Zero came after you during the war, you had to take it on yourself?
Yeah.
You didn't
Well,
have
the
any...
pilot would usually radio. You know, we wore a radio all the time, of course, and he would say like, you know, bandits 12 high, and that meant there were fighters coming head on, 12 o'clock high, or he might say 6 low, or give you clock 9.
Now you don't have a chance though. The cumbersome nature of your
I
airplane.
never got shot. I never got wounded that way. It was a different setup. Never got wounded.
But some did when you got killed. You've got combat
This glass
aircraft around
and
you,
this
right?
glass
All you've got in front of you is
were bulletproof.
That's it.
So they had to come, that's why they came high. And they knew if they dove in,
Nothing else.
they could kill the bombardier that way.
Were there
And they would dive
combat
right
aircraft
in.
up there in case you were confronted by
Bank
combat
off.
aircraft?
Yeah, climb again.
You actually had to be a gunner.
They killed a lot of bombardiers.
I had 250
Right.
caliber
In fact, there was a saying,
that I had to fire when fighters
pilots
came
would
straight
land
in.
and they would say,
So if a
clean out the guts
Messerschmitt
and
or
another, give me a
Zero
new
came after you
bombardier.
during the war, you had to now I know
take
we're
it on
jumping
yourself.
ahead a little bit, but you didn't
Well,
have
the
any.
pilot would usually radio.
Where
you know,
did that
wore a
happen?
radio all the
Where
time,
were you
of course.
when those kinds of
And
things
he
were
would say,
happening?
like,
This well after
you know,
your training, and you've been
bandits,
shot
yeah,
over
well,
to be part of the war.
we finished our training.
Yeah.
And then they
Coming
bused
head
us
on.
all to Lincoln, Nebraska.
Or he might say
We picked
6
up
low.
brand new B-24
Give you a clock
right out
9.
of the Ford
You don't have a
plant.
chance though. The
Ford was building it.
cumbersome nature
Ford was
of
building
your
the
airplane.
yeah, the B-24 that way. Well, Consolidated was their airplane,
Some
but
did.
they couldn't keep up with the production
This
needs,
glass
so
and this
Ford
glass
stopped there to line
bulletproof.
one of the lines, one.
So
I don't
they
know
had
which
to come,
plant,
that's why
but
they came
and they
high.
were building the
They knew if they
B-24.
dove
So now it
in,
had big plaques
kill the
built
bombardier
by
that
Ford.
way, they would dive right in
And we flew those
back off. Yeah.
from Lincoln, Nebraska
And they killed a lot of bombardiers.
to Valley,
Right.
Wales.
In fact, there was a saying,
This is your first time in a brand new
clean out the guts and
Brand
another
new
B-24. So how much different from those that you were training with? I know we're jumping ahead a little bit.
The
but
nose was completely different.
where did
And that was the main
happen?
thing.
Where were you?
The
when
nose
those
had a
kinds of things were
turret
happening. This well
with
after
a
your
gunner
training,
in it
and
above
you
my
were shipped
head.
over to be part of
And I
the-
was
we finished
underneath
our
him,
training.
Yeah.
and then my
And,
bomb
then
glasses
they
were
bust us
right
all
underneath
up,
his
like
seat.
in Nebraska.
Okay, so
We
I had
picked
to
up
operate the
brand
bomb
new
sight on my
B-24s.
knees.
Right out
That was
of
the only way you could
Ford
do it.
plant.
So the total crew in
Ford
this
was
B-24 is
Ford,
10 guys.
10.
Yeah,
Right,
B-24.
yeah.
Right.
Well,
Well, on the
Consolidated was their
B-24
airplane,
with the new nose,
but they
11.
couldn't keep up with the production needs, so
Because of the,
Ford
had
stopped
the
there to line
extra
up
turret.
one of the lines.
Right.
I don't know which.
So you
plant,
flew to
but they were
Wales?
building the B-24.
Well,
those
let
had
me
big
explain
plaques
that trip
built
to
by
you.
Ford.
Remember now,
And,
what do we got for
We
navigation?
flew those
Nothing.
from Lincoln, Nebraska.
In the States, yes, you had what we
Valley
call
Wales.
AN. And
This
that
is-
was
this
what
is-
everybody
This is your
flew that
first
had a
time in
radio.
Brand new.
Brand
They
new.
would send a beam
so
out.
how much different
I'll
from
give you
those
some
that you were
history.
training with?
Well, see, I started
The
flying
nose
when I
was
was about
completely
15
different.
years old.
And that was
And
the
I learned a
main
lot of
thing.
things. I could
The
fly.
nose
I could
had
get a
a
private
turret
license when I was
With
15.
a gunner in
I
it
was that
above my
capable
head.
of flying.
And I was underneath him. And then my bomb
Go from
glasses
one
were
place to
right
another.
underneath his
They
seat.
would project out
So I
beams,
had to
and they would
operate
go
the
out
bomb sight on
about
my knees.
maybe 150
The only way you
miles.
could do it.
So the
On the
total
left
crew
side
in this
was the
B-24 is
Morse
10 guys.
code
10.
A,
Right,
dit
yeah.
dot,
Right.
dit
Well,
dot.
on the B-24 with the new nose.
On the
11.
right side was N,
because of the.
They had the
dash
extra
dot,
turret.
dash dot, dash dot.
Yeah.
So
Now,
you
you
flew
knew,
to
so, okay,
Wales.
I'm
Well,
reading
let me
dash dot.
explain
I'm
that
to the
to you.
right of my course.
Remember now,
So fly back
what
in
do we
and you
got for
hear
navigation?
steady buzz.
Nothing.
But
In the States,
that was
yes, you
only
had what
to
we call
Dalman.
AN. And
So we
that
flew
was
these
what
planes into
everybody
Dalmain,
flew that had a
all right?
radio.
Now we take off
They would
for
send a beam out.
Newfoundland.
Give me some history here.
No radio aids.
Well, see, I started
So
flying
we
when I
flew
was
some
about
by
15 years
pilotage.
old.
Okay,
I
that
learned
way
a lot of
the
things. I
pilotage
could
is
fly.
going by
I
the
could get
ground.
private
Oh,
license
there's a
when I was
river, there's a
15.
road, there's
I was
a
that
bridge, there's a
capable of
railroad
flying.
track. That's pilotage. That's how you fly
Go from
pilotage.
one place to another.
But once we
They
left
would
the
project out
States,
beams, and they would go
nothing.
out about maybe
So how do you think we flew?
150 miles.
how do you think we
On the left
navigated?
side was the Morse
Celestial.
code A.
I was just going to say, that's all you
We
have.
flew at
Did
night. Yeah.
Did die.
We flew from
On the
from
right
Dalmain
side
to
was
Newfoundland,
N.
and then I forget the next stop was
Dash
further up
dot.
Labrador,
Dash dot.
Labrador.
and
Now,
then
you
the
use
next
no
one
organ
was
problem.
Iceland.
Reading
I was
dash
just gonna say
dot.
Iceland,
To
and
the
then,
right of my
The
core.
next one is probably, depending upon how far north you are, maybe the coast
Yeah.
of Scotland.
Yeah.
And then you came down.
Well, they had us one coming to Wales.
Mhm.
What happened was when we get to Reykjavik, Iceland, we were downloaded for some minor modifications, and it started to snow, and it snowed, and it snowed, and then it went to about 25 below zero, and the damn airplanes wouldn't start. And so while finally they had an idea.
So you landed in Reykjavik.
Or Reykjavik,
You
Iceland.
must have had communication with the ground, radio. Otherwise, how would you know that's
No,
Reykjavik?
it wasn't my. We didn't understand them anyway. They talk Icelandic.
This sounds a little like the Keystone Cops here.
Yeah, oh, it was ridiculous. Oh, some of the things
You might never have made it.
No,
Did you
we
fly
were damn
cruise?
lucky. Absolutely, absolutely amazing that we actually got there.
That's beyond me.
Between the navigator and I, we could go to Celestial, and you take that trip, the last one from Newfoundland to Iceland, that's a long ride, and from Iceland to Valley, Wales. So he would do it first, and then he would bunk down and catch a nap, and then I would do it for an hour or two or three, and then he would take over again.
Training base.
That's how we got there, and we had planes
so
behind
then
us. We were squadron leader.
Radio.
because Don Hogan was such a good pilot.
Told us that our
All right?
base was
So
ready.
we had 11 airplanes
And we flew
following
into
us.
a new base
And all they're following is just
Everything.
exhaust and
So they
tail
don't see you
lights.
visually.
No.
If they listen to you visually.
Oh, they were dead nuts. They were crazy. They were gone.
EEBACH.
Incredible.
They had
Where's
a
the-
deputy navigator. We had
Not too
lead
far from
and
Ipswich.
a right deputy and a left
Most
deputy.
of,
all right?
Most of the bases.
So you had
were
actually
yeah,
3 out of the
North Sea.
squadron of 12
Close to the Germans.
that were capable.
Yeah.
So hopefully they wouldn't
we
lose
go
all
in
3 of
there.
us.
Now we started
Fine.
training with the 8th Air Force. You know who my commanding
That's
officer
incredible.
was?
I can't.
I mean, commanding officer
Yeah,
of the whole 8th
yeah.
Air
That's
Force.
very primitive here. You,
Oh, of course it was.
wow.
Yeah,
Was that with any group that was flying over at that time? Army.
yeah,
Same
He
way?
was Army
Oh,
Air
yeah.
Force, that's for sure.
oh, yeah, pretty much.
Could the
They
enemy
eventually,
have been?
they eventually established more radio aids. They were getting better at it, And a lot of them flew down into the Azores and went that way, which was a better route. We went the northern route, which was terrible.
Shorter though.
Yeah, but much shorter. Oh, much shorter. Yeah, hundreds of miles, thousands of
Right.
miles probably shorter.
Yes. Yeah.
So anyway, as we neared Valley and then the Wales,
Tell me, how did you know it was Wales that you'd come to? Maybe it was the coast of Ireland or.
well, we knew pretty well because of the navigation that we'd done the night before. We're flying in that night. Okay. We knew that by then we were getting some radio. Okay, we had a radio contact. We had radio
In
contact
English?
with the British.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Not American English, but English
Yeah.
English. Yeah.
Yeah. So they told us to land at Valley, Wales. I'm saying, we're not going to be in the war, I guess, We're out here. And the reason our base wasn't ready.
Give me a timetable here. Wintertime it must be because of the snow.
Yeah, well, it wasn't too bad when we got to Wales.
1942, late fall, early winter, 1942.
44.
44.
Yeah.
Okay, wow, that's what I wanted to know.